so very nice to see you today. You're also very lovely. I'm ready to tell you about another tip today I think you'll really enjoy. Every comparative analysis deserves a T-chart. Now let's consider when you might use a T-chart. Let's say you were comparing Egyptians with Mesopotamians, and you'd want to think about the geographic location, and you'd want to think about their leaders and the people involved. You want to think what kind of resources they have. So if you build a T-chart, it would be so helpful for your studies. Let's think about another example. One comes to mind about the American Revolution, and you want to look at two sides of war. You want to think about the Americans and the colonists, and you want to think about the British. What are the pros and cons of each side? And why did one side win over the other? Or how about if you were thinking of joining a basketball league? Well, if you made a T-chart, you could very easily see through visual concept mapping whether or not you'd like to join, looking at the pros and cons. Let's go over some concrete examples right now. Let's think about the Egyptians. Their civilization grew up around the Nile River, and they were people with a land of villages. They were ruled by pharaohs, and their resources included fish and fowl and dates and honey and even papyrus. And they had tools made of stone and bronze, and they even had rolling tools. When we think about the Mesopotamian cultures, it was around the Tigris River and the Euphrates where they come to a convergence, and it was a great fertile area with fast-growing cities. So the comparison is, look at villages, look at cities. They were ruled by priests, and the food was barley and nuts and olives and dates. And the tools were similar, stone, bronze, iron, and even the wheel. But a comparative analysis sets it all out visually for your study. Let's think about the Americans and the British. The Americans had a great cause. The cause was freedom from rule from Britain. The British were far away from where they lived, thousands of miles across the Atlantic Ocean. The Americans, they had a makeshift militia, and they were often called Minutemen, ready at a moment's notice. But the British, arguably, were the world's most trained army and navy, with great vessels. And the Americans had the home field advantage, and they knew the land, and they learned tactics from Native American tribes living there. The British used a lineup formation that they had been successful with for years. But a comparative analysis will let us look at all this and think about it in a historical light. Now let's look at the example of you joining a basketball league, and let's write it all out. Sure, you'll get some exercise and you'll make new friends and you'll learn discipline. You'll even learn hand-eye coordination skills. Not joining, well, there's an opportunity cost for everything, so there could be other things that you want to do. You might want to just keep the friends you have. And perhaps you don't want to learn a new game at this time. So if you write it all out, it might help you make a better choice. These are some examples for using a T-chart. So this gives you an idea of how conceptually you can look visually at a T-chart to help you study. And I hope you do very well. I'm rooting for you. Study on, my friends. Now, it's your turn to practice. I want you to draw a T-chart. I want you to try a comparison, and I want you to tell me about it under the comments section. Study on!